everyone, this is Thursday's maths lesson. We're going to start again with another 5 a day, so have a look at the questions on the board and let's see if we can answer them. First one, let's start with this one. Which of these shapes is a triangle? Think about the properties of a triangle. How many corners does it have? How many sides? Which one is the triangle? Here it is. 3 corners, 3 sides. What is 10 more than 32? We did one similar to this the other day, didn't we? We've already got 3 10s and 2 1s. We don't need to worry about the 1s so much. They're going to stay the same. We're going to add another 10. So 3 10s and another 10. So 32, 42. The answer is 42. How much money? This time I have pennies. So let's just count in ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 10 pence. Don't forget those units. I'll let you have a go at this one by yourselves. You can write it down on a piece of paper, talk it through with the person next to you, however you want to work it out. 15 add 12. Think about your 10s and 1s. Have a little go. Okay, so we've got 1 10 from 15, another 10 in 12, that's 2 10s, that's 20, and the 5 and the 2. So 25, 26, 27. 27 is the answer. And the last one for today, it's a sneaky one because there's 2 parts, so it's like an extra bonus question. Complete the number tracks. The first number track, 0, 2, 4, missing number, 8, and then another missing number. What are the missing numbers? What are we counting in? 2, 4, 8. We're counting in 2s, aren't we? So 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Well done. And the last one, which I'm struggling to see, let me just move my little box out the way. 14, 16, 22, 24. What are we counting in this time? Look at the ones. We've got 4, 6, 2, 4. I think we're counting in 2s again, aren't we? 14, 16. What comes next? 18, 20. Well done. I'm just going to move my little box back down to the bottom so it doesn't get in the way of the rest of the PowerPoint. And we'll move on. Okay, so today we're finding fractions of groups of objects. Okay, so we did fractions of shapes yesterday. We can also find fractions of amounts. To start us off, let's see how good we are at recognizing these fractions. So these are our notations, aren't they? This is how we write a fraction. What fraction have I got here? Let's have a look. I've got a 1 at the top, my numerator, and a 2 at the bottom, my denominator. 1 part out of 2 parts. What's that? Shall we have a look? It's a half. 1/2. Well done if you knew that one. Oh, this one's a bit trickier. What's this one? This time my numerator is a 3, my denominator is a 4. 3 parts out of the 4 parts overall. What's that one? If it's got a 4 at the bottom, what are we thinking about? Let's have a look. 3/4. 3/4. Well done. 3 out of the 4 quarters. And this one? And numerator's gone back to a 1, so it's just 1 part we're looking at out of 3 parts, total parts. It's a third, 1/3. Well done. All right, so fractions of amounts. When finding fractions of amounts, we split the objects into groups. It's kind of division, really. We're splitting into groups. So I want to find half of these beads. How many beads have I got to start with? Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So half of 6. I need to split them into 2 equal groups. Then I'm going to look to see how many I've got in one of those groups. So if you think about the circle that we had and we split it in half, didn't we? Cut it down the middle to make 2 equal parts. Each of those parts was a half. We're going to do the same, but we're going to do groups. So I've got 1 group, 2 groups. Okay, these are my 2 halves, just like the halves of my circle. So now all I've got to do is share them out. Here we go. When I share out, I'm not going to put them all in one group, am I? I'm going to split them, one, then the other group, then the other group, okay? So 1, 2, see it goes in the other group. 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I've shared them out. I've put them into the 2 groups. But remember, I'm only interested in what's in one half. Here we are. So I'm going to look at just one of those groups. What is half of 6? So I can count how many I've got in that half. 1, 2, 3. So half of 6 is 3. Let's have a go at a few. So here we go. All of these fractions have got my 1 at the top. Okay, we're looking at 1 as the numerator. So half of 12 is. Now, if I've got my objects sorted out in nice little rows like this, I might not need to draw the groups and sort them. I might just be able to pop a line down the middle to split it into 2 equal groups, because remember, they have to be equal. So I've got the same number on this side and the same number on this side. 1 half, 2 halves. So how much have I got in 1 half? What is 1 half of 12? Have a little look. I'm not going to need both sides. I'm just going to need to look in 1 half, remember. Half of 12 is 6. There we are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in that half. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in that half. Both halves are equal. How about this one then? Look at my fraction this time. Here it is. I haven't got a half this time, have I? What's this fraction? There's a 4 at the bottom as the denominator. It is a quarter. Well done. 1 quarter. So I'm looking at only one of those groups still, okay? So 1 quarter of 8. Now my objects are nicely set out in rows, aren't they again? So I can cut them in half and in half again. So half and then half again gives me 1, 2, 3, 4 groups. Look, can you see the groups? The different sections I've created by drawing these lines? I want to know what's in 1 quarter, so one of those parts. So here, I'm going to look here in this part here, this group. How many have I got? What is 1 quarter of 8? That's right, it's 2. Well done. 1, 2. I've got 2 cakes in this quarter, haven't I? Lovely. Now, I just want to show you this because if you look carefully at my fraction, it is set out slightly differently. Instead of being one above the other, they're next to each other. But don't worry, it still means 2/3, okay? It still means 2/3. The first number is your numerator, the second one is the denominator. 2/3, okay? It's just another way of writing it. When we're finding a fraction like 2/3, where the numerator isn't a 1, okay? It's another number, like 2/3 or 3/4. We need to look at more than one of those groups, okay? So I want to find 2/3 of these sweets. How many sweets have I got all together, first of all? What's my whole? So my whole is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, okay? So I've got 9 sweets, all right? That's my whole group. I want to split it into thirds though. So just like with my circle, remember I need how many groups for thirds? I need 3, don't I? And I'm going to be looking at how many is in 2 of those groups because I want 2/3. So here are my thirds. I've highlighted 2 of them, so we know that those are the ones we're going to be looking at. Now I need to do that division, don't I? I need to share them out. So I'm going to share my sweets out. Remember when you share them out, 1 at a time in each group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've shared them out equally so that each group has got an equal number, the same number. Look, how many in each group? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So all my groups are equal. Now remember, with this fraction, I'm not just looking at one of those groups. The first number, that numerator, tells me how many parts I'm interested in. Remember, that's what numerator means, doesn't it? How many of those parts we're looking at. So on a shape, it would be how many you shaded in, 2 out of 3. When you're dividing and sharing out objects like this, it's how many of those groups you're going to be looking at. So I'm looking at 2 groups because it is 2/3. 2 out of the 3 groups. So 2/3. So how many have I got in 2 of those groups? Well, I've got 3 in this one, and I've got 3 in the next one. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 2/3 of 9 is 6. Right, one last one to have a little look at. You might want to draw this yourself. Don't worry about drawing beautiful cupcakes, just draw circles. It's a representation, it'll be fine. So I've got 8 cupcakes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I want how much? How many? What fraction am I looking at this time? It's 3/4, isn't it? So I need to quarter it. I need to split it into 4 groups. Now, because they're in nice, neat rows, I can just draw those lines again. If you want to, though, and you want to have a practice for yourself at splitting objects into groups, then I want you to draw yourself 4 big circles. I'm doing 4 circles because it's quarters. So I'm going to be splitting into 4 groups. Okay, so on the board, I've split it. If you want to have a go at practicing sharing, then that's fine. 4 circles on your sheet or on a whiteboard, whatever you've got in front of you, and then share them out. Remember, 1 in each group. Okay, so I've split it like this. Now, how many of those quarters do I need to look at? Look at the fraction again. My numerator says 3. 3/4. I want 3 of those groups. So I want to know how many cupcakes I have in these 3 groups. All right, 3/4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 3/4 of 8 is 6. All right, guys. So I'll stop showing that one and I'll show you your activities for today. Oh, I should say as well, I'll bring this up first. I've forgotten to mention, Purple Mash this week, I have set you a to-do. It's called Fractonio's Pizzeria. All right, Fractonio's Pizzeria. It's all set up in your to-do folder. It does go back and look at fractions of shapes and sharing things out around a shape. So it kind of bridges the 2 activities. So if you wanted to play that before you did any of these activities, then that would be great. Or if just at any other time, if you've got a spare 5 minutes and you fancy having a bit of a practice of your fractions, because they are new and they are a bit tricky, then have a little go at that game. I've set it at the easiest level. So you're just doing halves, quarters, and 3/4, I think. Have a little look and have a go. Right, so your sheets for today then. The one I've got up at the moment is the easiest sheet. So you're going to colour in the right fraction first, and then you're going to fill in the missing boxes for me, the blank boxes, sorry. So the first one's been done for you, except the colouring. So it says find half of these amounts. So the first one, look, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 teddy bears. So it says total 4 bears. What is half of 4? Well, you'd colour in half of those bears. All right. Half of 4 is 2. Okay. Now you've done halving and doubling before, so don't be put off by the fact that you're looking at a number fraction. Okay, it's the same. You're still dealing with halving. Okay. So the next one, cakes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So in the total box, you'd write 8, and then you want half of 8 is colour in half the cakes. How many have you got? Okay. At the bottom, there is a slight challenge because it moves on to quarters. If you wanted to, look, they're nicely arranged into rows and columns, aren't they? So you could just cut it into quarters, couldn't you? You could draw some lines there to help you cut the box into quarters. Again, do the same here. Make sure that each quarter has the same number in, that they're equal, okay? Otherwise, it's not a proper fraction, okay? And then you can have a little go at filling in the missing boxes. That's the easier sheet. The next two sheets are very similar, but they are slightly different. They're called fraction finders. The first sheet just looks at halves and quarters. And then at the end, I've given you a little challenge. See if you can find 3/4. So remember looking at 3 of the groups you split into. The second slightly trickier sheet, halves, quarters, and 3/4, with your challenge being to look for a third. Okay, so you're splitting into 3 groups for that one. Now it says on the top of the sheet, use cubes or Lego bricks, but honestly, any small object is fine as long as you've got a lot of them. So if you've got counters at home or marbles, if you've got bits of pasta, that's fine. Crayons, felt tip pens, anything that you've got a lot of, okay, that's quite small. So use cubes or Lego bricks or anything small that you've got to hand to find these fractions. So it gives you a number at the side, and the first box asks you to find half, and then the next box asks you to find quarter. So you can think about how many groups you're going to split them into. So the first one says 4. So I'd get 4. So I've got 4 pens here, look. I'm going to split them into 2 groups, 2 equal groups, okay? And then I'm going to look at one of those groups because I'm only interested in 1/2, okay? So I've got 2 pens. So half of 4 is 2. So I can fill that in that first box. Then I'm going to try and quarter it. So to quarter them, I'm going to have to split them into 4 groups, aren't they? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 groups. How many have I got in one of those groups? Because I'm only interested in 1/4. I've got 1, haven't I? So I can write 1 in that box. So spread them out in front of you. If you want to, you could get sheets of paper with whatever objects you've got. So for halves, you're going to split on and put them onto 2 pieces of paper, 1 group, 2 groups, okay? For quarters, you want 4 pieces of paper, just so you've got clear groups so that you can sort between. So do it really practically and then put your answers onto the sheet. There is space on the back as well if you fancied having a go at drawing the groups and putting them in like that, okay? Again, the other sheet, slightly trickier because you're already thinking about 3/4 in the table and then your challenge is a third. Then as an extension, if you get all that done and you fancy a real challenge, then there's the fraction of groups sheet. This deals with other fractions, ones that we haven't looked at together. You just need to remember what that denominator is telling you. They're all 1 for the numerator, so you're only looking at 1 group, okay? So you've got half, that's fine. You've got a third, we should be okay with that. We've got a quarter, but look, we've also got a 5th, a 6th, and an 8th. Okay, so with those, you're splitting into, for the 8th, 8 groups. For the 5th, 5 groups. For the 6th, 6 groups. Okay, and then you're just looking at one of those groups. Again, if you want to, turn the sheet over, draw the groups on the back, share them out, and look at one of those groups. Okay, so that's just to introduce you to some different fractions. Once you've got halves, quarters, and thirds, the rest are fairly easy because you're just splitting into the different number of groups. But it is there as a challenge because we haven't talked about those fractions together. Don't forget about Fractonio's Pizzeria, the game on Purple Mash, because it is quite fun. Okay, so it's a nice way of bridging the gap between shapes and objects as well and thinking about those fractions in a different way. And that's today's lesson. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow.